Welcome back to the Crime Documentary Files channel. A trap had already been set. No matter how hard she resisted, there was no escaping the cage. In the end, she was stabbed more than 120 times, with blood soaking the entire car. In today's urban life, it's completely normal for us to pull out our phones and book a ride, an almost daily routine. We hardly ever think something bad could happen. But there was a college student who ordered a ride as usual. The moment she opened the door and got into the car, it was already too late. In 2019 in Columbia, a city located in the heart of South Carolina, and also the state's largest city, a horrifying crime occurred. The University of South Carolina, a renowned institution, is located in this city, and today's story took place there. The central figure of this case was Samantha Josephson, a senior student at the University of South Carolina who was about to graduate. She was filled with hope for the future and planned to pursue a master's degree afterward. She was born on August 13, 1997, into a middle-class family in Princeton, New Jersey. Her parents were both highly educated intellectuals who met during college before getting married. Samantha also had an older sister, 2 years her senior. The family of four was close-knit and harmonious. Samantha had a cheerful personality. As a child, she often played pranks that filled the house with laughter. Her friends and family considered her the life of the party, often calling her Sami. Academically, she was always outstanding, consistently ranking as an honor student in her teachers' eyes. After graduating from Robbinsville High School, she was accepted into the University of South Carolina, majoring in political science. During her college years, Samantha was highly active. Besides focusing on her studies, she enthusiastically participated in extracurricular activities and joined the Alpha Gamma Delta sorority. This international women's organization promotes leadership, academic excellence, and social responsibility among women. Samantha also participated in a one-week exchange program in Barcelona and traveled to several countries where she witnessed social injustices firsthand. These experiences had a profound impact on her, inspiring her to become a lawyer. Her dream was to become the next Amal Clooney, a renowned British international human rights lawyer. Amal is not only admired for her beauty, but also highly respected for her outstanding contributions to the legal field, having been involved in many high-profile international cases and actively advocating for global human rights. Samantha deeply admired Amal and aspired to follow in her footsteps. In her sophomore year of college, Samantha met Greg, a junior at the time, at a local bar. They instantly hit it off, and after a few dates, they officially became a couple. Since Greg was a year ahead of her, he graduated in 2018. Rather than continuing his education, he chose to start working immediately and returned to his hometown of Mount Pleasant, approximately a 2-hour drive from Columbia. Although the distance separated them, their relationship remained strong. They frequently video called each other and stayed in close contact daily. Greg often drove down on weekends to visit her. Of course, Samantha never lost sight of her original dream, becoming a lawyer who would advocate for the vulnerable. Time passed quickly, and by 2019, as she was approaching graduation from the University of South Carolina, her hard work had finally paid off. Samantha excitedly called her father to share the news that she had been accepted into Rutgers Law School and had even received a partial scholarship. Her father was overjoyed. Rutgers is one of the most prestigious and historic universities in the U.S. But the good news didn't stop there. Less than 10 minutes later, Samantha called again to say that Drexel University's law school had also accepted her and awarded her a full scholarship. After careful consideration, Samantha ultimately chose Drexel University Law School. After all, a full scholarship was an incredible opportunity that would significantly ease her family's financial burden. Greg, her boyfriend, was fully supportive of her decision and even started making plans to find a job in Philadelphia, where Drexel is located, so they could stay close together. At this point, Samantha was thriving in both her academic career and personal life. If nothing unexpected happened, her future as an outstanding lawyer seemed all but guaranteed. However, no one could have predicted the tragedy that was about to unfold just 2 months before her graduation. On the night of March 28, 2019, Samantha and a few classmates went out to a popular nightlife area called 5 Points, located about 1 mile 0.6 miles from the University of South Carolina campus. This district, filled with bars and entertainment spots, is a favorite among college students. Samantha and her friends gathered at a bar called Bird Dog. Around 2 a.m., she started feeling tired and decided to leave on her own. Sadly, after she left, she vanished without a trace. She didn't answer calls or respond to messages. By the morning of March 29th, her roommate and boyfriend grew increasingly worried and began searching for her everywhere they could think of, but she was nowhere to be found. By 1:30 p.m., Samantha's roommate decided not to wait any longer and reported her disappearance to the police. Although it had been less than 24 hours since she was last seen, law enforcement acted immediately. Officers went to Samantha's apartment to question her roommates and gather details about her appearance the night she went missing. They quickly released her photo to the public, hoping someone might have information. It's important to note that this incident took place in 2019 in the busy downtown area with heavy foot traffic, making it highly likely that someone had seen her. At around 4 p.m., the police received a critical lead. In the New Zion area of Clarendon County, southeast of Columbia, approximately 62 miles from the bar where Samantha had gone missing, 2 hunters discovered the body of a young woman on the side of the road. Authorities immediately arrived at the scene and confirmed that the victim was indeed Samantha, the woman they had been desperately searching for. The autopsy revealed multiple injuries across her body, consisting of sharp force trauma that was neither large nor deep. The wounds were concentrated mainly on her head, neck, arms, and back, with an initial estimate of at least 120 stab wounds. The medical examiner noted that the exact number of injuries was difficult to determine due to the overwhelming number of wounds, emphasizing the extreme brutality of the attack. What puzzled the forensic experts was the nature of the weapon. The wound patterns suggested a very unusual blade, not a standard knife, but rather a weapon with 2 parallel blades, as many of the injuries appeared symmetrical. The medical examiner was unable to identify the specific weapon type. Even more horrifying was the fact that Samantha's body was nearly devoid of blood. Based on her body weight, she should have had approximately 4 liters, around 1 gallon of blood, yet only 20 milliliters, 0.7 ounces, were recovered from her body. In other words, she had bled out almost entirely. With such a minimal amount of blood remaining, the medical examiner was unable to perform additional toxicology tests. The cause of death was determined to be exsanguination, massive blood loss, a process estimated to have taken between 10 to 20 minutes. Samantha had likely endured unimaginable pain and despair during those final moments, a thought chilling enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Her parents and boyfriend were completely devastated upon hearing the tragic news. They struggled to comprehend how such a vibrant, loving young woman could be taken so suddenly and brutally. It was an unbearable reality for them to accept. Her father posted an emotional message on social media. "It is with tremendous sadness and a broken heart that I post this. I will miss and love my baby girl for the rest of my life. Samantha is no longer with us, but she will not be forgotten. It is extremely hard to write this and post it, but I love her with all my heart. I could continue to write about her, but it kills me. I sit here and cry while looking at her picture and writing this." The University of South Carolina was also deeply shaken by the tragedy. The entire campus fell into a state of fear and shock, as Samantha's actions before her tragic death were routine for most college students. Going to bars on evenings with light coursework and using a ride-hailing app were everyday activities for many students. This realization brought chilling fear to the student body, as what had happened to Samantha could have easily happened to any of them. Many students grew hesitant to visit bars or book rides, terrified by the thought that they could be the next victim. The police were under immense pressure. If the perpetrator wasn't caught quickly, all university students could be in danger. Therefore, they mobilized a significant police force to conduct a comprehensive investigation into the case. The police decided to start from scratch, focusing on when and where Samantha was last seen. Samantha's friends, who had been drinking with her on the night of March 28th, told the police, "That night, we were drinking and chatting together at the bar. She wasn't in the best mood, but seemed generally fine. Around 2 a.m. on March 29th, she said she didn't want to stay out any longer and wanted to go home to catch up on sleep, so she left before us." Samantha's boyfriend, Greg, gave his statement to the police. "That night, I had been texting with my girlfriend throughout the evening. Her parents were sick, so she was feeling a bit down. We kept texting each other until around 2:04 a.m. on March 29th. She told me she had booked an Uber to go home and said the car was on its way. After that, she stopped responding to my messages. Since we had location sharing enabled, I checked her location and noticed her route was different from her usual path home. The car should have been heading north, but instead, it was going southeast. It felt strange, but since I wasn't in Colombia at the time, all I could do was call and text her repeatedly, but there was no response. Then, something even stranger happened. Her location sharing suddenly stopped, which had never happened before. In fact, before contacting the police, Greg had already visited Samantha's roommates and searched for her together. He even reviewed security camera footage that showed Samantha getting into a car that night. After noticing the irregularities, he decided to report the case to the authorities. Based on these statements, the police identified a crucial detail. Samantha had gone missing shortly after calling an Uber around 2 a.m. This made the Uber vehicle a prime suspect. Investigators quickly contacted Uber and traced the driver who had accepted Samantha's ride request, a man named Marcus. When questioned, Marcus responded, "Yes, I accepted the ride, but I never picked up Samantha that night. After waiting for a while without anyone showing up, I canceled the ride." So, could it be that Samantha had entered the wrong car? Following this lead, the police reviewed street surveillance footage. Around 2 a.m. on March 29th, Samantha was seen standing alone on a street corner waiting for her ride. She was wearing a red-orange top, jeans, and holding her phone. Despite the late hour, the area was still busy with many young people gathering around. No one appeared to be following or approaching Samantha. She stood alone at the designated pickup point, and everything seemed normal. At 2:11 a.m., a silver-gray car briefly stopped near Samantha. She quickly approached, thinking it was her ride, but the car drove away. It clearly wasn't her Uber. She returned to her spot and continued waiting. About 30 seconds later, at 2:12 a.m., a black Chevrolet pulled up. Samantha stepped forward again, entered the vehicle, and the car disappeared into the night. Upon reviewing additional surveillance footage from the area, the police uncovered a disturbing pattern. The black Chevrolet had actually been circling the area multiple times. Each time, the driver would stop at different corners near the bars, wait for a few minutes, and then drive off. The vehicle seemed to be prowling for a victim, specifically targeting people leaving the bars. The driver had clearly noticed Samantha earlier when she mistakenly approached the wrong vehicle alone. This was no random crime, it was a premeditated, targeted act. The police quickly expanded their surveillance efforts to track the black Chevrolet, but unfortunately the cameras failed to capture the license plate or a clear image of the driver. At this point, the investigation had led to a vague conclusion. The suspect was driving a black Chevrolet frequently seen around the 5 Points area. Beyond that, information was scarce. Due to these limited leads, the police intensified their patrols, deploying a large force to monitor the area closely, paying special attention to any black Chevrolet vehicles entering or leaving 5 Points. Under normal circumstances, such a large-scale police presence would likely drive a suspect into hiding. However, shockingly, within less than a day, the police managed to capture the suspect, not because of exceptional investigative efficiency, but because the suspect was unbelievably reckless, showing complete disregard for law enforcement. In the early hours of March 30th, while patrolling 5 Points, officers unexpectedly spotted the black Chevrolet captured in the surveillance footage. Without hesitation, they pulled the vehicle over. Upon stopping the car, they ordered the man inside, who was wearing a white hoodie, to step out. However, the suspect took advantage of a momentary distraction and attempted to flee on foot. Inside the car, officers found a female passenger who appeared confused and completely unaware of what was happening. Meanwhile, officers gave chase and successfully apprehended the fleeing man shortly after. His attempt to escape before any questioning further raised suspicions. However, when questioned, the man remained silent, only claiming that he was having trouble breathing and needed medical attention. Paramedics were called, but after a brief examination, it was confirmed that he was in good health with no medical issues. To confirm his identity, the police photographed and fingerprinted the man. After running the fingerprints through their system, they identified him as 24-year-old Nathaniel Rowland. At the same time, another team of officers conducted a preliminary search of the vehicle. Inside, they discovered a small amount of marijuana, a rose gold iPhone, and visible bloodstains on the back seat. Additionally, they found cleaning supplies, including bleach. All signs pointed to the vehicle being the crime scene. Forensic specialists were immediately called to the scene to collect evidence from the car, including blood samples, as well as scrapings from under Rowland's fingernails and his clothing. Rowland clearly knew that the blood left in his car was impossible to hide. So, he told the police the following story. On March 28th, I attended a family party. I drank too much and ended up staying at a hotel overnight. The next morning, when I got into my car, I noticed blood all over the interior. So, I bought cleaning products to wipe it down. Someone had borrowed my car, and I had no idea how the blood got there. He spoke with a serious tone, but when officers pressed him for the name of the person who had borrowed his car and the names of those at the party, he refused to answer, saying it was a private matter. It was a clumsy and unconvincing lie. The police, of course, didn't believe him. They continued gathering evidence and obtained a warrant for a more thorough search of Rowland's vehicle. As expected, the investigation uncovered even more critical clues. First, the child safety locks on the rear doors had been activated, meaning a passenger in the back seat would have been unable to open the doors from the inside. On the rear passenger window, investigators found a shoe print, indicating someone had tried to kick the window open but failed. Second, inside the vehicle, police discovered a shopping list and an eviction notice. The shopping list included items such as duct tape, gloves, gasoline, and a cell phone, suggesting clear intent to dispose of evidence. The eviction notice had been filed by a woman named Maria on March 26th. Upon investigation, Maria was identified as Rowland's current girlfriend. Finally, although Rowland had attempted to clean the interior, a luminol test revealed extensive bloodstains covering almost the entire back seat. One of the investigators, with 25 years of experience, stated he had never seen such a large amount of blood at a crime scene. Considering Samantha had been nearly drained of all her blood, the findings perfectly matched the cause of death. DNA tests later confirmed that the blood belonged to Samantha. The shoe print on the rear window also matched Samantha's footwear. The rose gold iPhone found in the car was identified as hers. Additionally, blood residue under Rowland's fingernails was a DNA match with Samantha. Moreover, the location where Samantha's body was discovered was just 1.8 miles from Rowland's residence, an area he was very familiar with. This proximity suggested he had chosen the location deliberately to dispose of her body. Based on this overwhelming circumstantial evidence, the prosecution charged Rowland with first-degree murder and kidnapping. Samantha's family argued that Rowland's brutality posed a severe threat to society and urged the court to deny him bail. The judge agreed, and Rowland was denied bail. Rowland was born in South Carolina in 1994. Not much is known about his childhood, except that he was reportedly a troublesome child. During high school, he was the captain of the basketball team and well-liked by his coach. However, after finishing school, his life took a darker turn. He frequently drove around the 5 Points area, often targeting unfamiliar women and offering them rides to make conversation. Without stable employment, he often loitered and engaged in disruptive behavior. In October 2018, 2 men kidnapped a woman in the Columbia area and stole valuables from her home. Mere hours after the incident, police discovered Rowland attempting to sell the stolen items, strongly suggesting his direct or indirect involvement in the crime. That case was still under investigation when Samantha was murdered. Roland's criminal history made it evident he was a repeat offender. However, despite the overwhelming evidence, Roland firmly denied all charges, claiming he was innocent and had been wrongfully arrested. With no confession, the prosecution had to compile all the circumstantial evidence into a comprehensive chain of proof. On July 20th, 2021, Roland's trial officially began. The prosecution summoned a total of 31 witnesses, with the most critical testimony coming from Roland's 24-year-old girlfriend, Maria. When the police initially approached her, she had promised to reveal everything she knew. Maria testified, "Roland is my boyfriend. We've known each other for a long time, but only recently started dating seriously. He owns a black Chevrolet and often hangs around the 5 Points area. On the night of March 28th, he didn't come home. I texted him, but he didn't respond. It wasn't until after 7 a.m. on March 29th that I finally saw his car parked nearby. Since I was in a hurry to get to work, I didn't have time to get upset and just asked him to drive me there. While on the way, I noticed a lot of bloodstains on the back seat. I asked him what had happened, and he brushed it off, saying it was none of my business. There was also a rose gold iPhone in the car, clearly a woman's phone. When I asked where it came from, he vaguely replied that he had just found it and said he would give it to me after wiping it clean. I told him I didn't want it since I don't like iPhones. Later that evening, after returning home from work, I noticed bloodstains on the clothes he had changed out of after showering. He also used a large amount of cleaning supplies and bleach to scrub the car thoroughly. I confronted him about it, but he dismissed my concerns again. However, I clearly saw a two-bladed knife covered in blood inside the vehicle. When I later saw the news about Samantha's murder, I was terrified, but too scared to go to the police. I lived in fear until the police finally showed up at my door. At that moment, I felt relieved. I could finally share everything I knew. Following Maria's testimony, the police searched the trash bin near her residence. As expected, they discovered a double-bladed knife with a unique design matching the pattern of Samantha's wounds. Bloodstains on the blade were later confirmed to belong to Samantha, officially identifying it as the murder weapon. Additionally, the trash contained several of Roland's blood-stained clothes, along with blood-stained bedsheets, towels, and gloves. Further forensic testing confirmed that all blood traces were a DNA match for Samantha. These physical pieces of evidence became the most definitive proof in the case against Roland. Additionally, the police uncovered more evidence. By tracking cell phone signals, they discovered that Roland's and Samantha's phones had both left Columbia together in the early hours of March 29th, traveling along Highway 378 and eventually reaching the New Zion area where Samantha's body was found. At 5:43 a.m. on March 29th, someone attempted to withdraw cash using Samantha's Wells Fargo card 9 times. Surveillance footage from the ATM showed a man, his face mostly concealed, repeatedly trying to withdraw money but failing after multiple incorrect password attempts before leaving the scene. A witness also observed this incident. Based on the timeline, Samantha had already been murdered by then. Although the footage did not clearly reveal the man's face, his build and height closely matched Roland's description. Later that morning, around 11 a.m. on March 29th, Roland was seen visiting a second-hand store where he attempted to sell Samantha's rose gold iPhone. By this point, the evidence overwhelmingly pointed to Roland as the perpetrator. However, the trial did not go as smoothly as expected. Roland's defense attorney argued that because his DNA was not found under Samantha's fingernails, he could not be the killer. The defense claimed that Samantha would have undoubtedly resisted during the attack, and traces of the true attacker's DNA should have been present under her nails. Since no such DNA was found, they argued Roland was innocent. The prosecution, however, provided a strong rebuttal. They explained that if the attack had been particularly forceful and swift, Samantha might not have had a chance to fight back effectively. Alternatively, she may have attempted to resist, but only scratched Roland's clothing rather than his skin, leaving no DNA evidence. Furthermore, forensic examination revealed that all 10 of Samantha's fingernails had been trimmed within the past day or two. The prosecution suggested this was likely Roland's attempt to eliminate potential evidence after the murder. Seeing their initial argument weakened, the defense shifted strategies and called several witnesses to testify on Roland's behalf. His cousin claimed that on the night of March 28, 2019, Roland had been heavily intoxicated and passed out, making it impossible for him to leave the house and commit the crime. Roland's father testified that on the morning of March 29th, Roland had discovered his car keys missing and later found them in a parking lot. Upon opening his vehicle, he reportedly found blood inside, suggesting someone else had borrowed the car to commit the crime, insisting his son was innocent. Roland's family, including his parents, siblings, and former high school basketball coach, all described him as a good person and argued that, despite his troubled behavior, he could never commit such a heinous crime. However, despite the defense's efforts to cast doubt, their arguments were far less convincing than the overwhelming evidence presented by the prosecution. On July 27, 2021, after just over an hour of deliberation, the jury returned a unanimous verdict. Nathaniel Roland was found guilty of murder and kidnapping. In her final statement, Roland's mother pleaded with the judge, insisting that her son was a loving and compassionate person who could not have committed such a crime. However, the judge firmly rejected these pleas, declaring Roland's crimes brutal, heinous, and among the most horrific murders I have ever seen in this courtroom. He emphasized that such cruelty warranted the harshest punishment with no leniency. Ultimately, Roland was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Notably, throughout the entire trial and even when the judge handed down his sentence, Roland remained emotionless and calm, showing no sign of remorse. His chilling lack of empathy sent shivers down the spine of everyone present. Though justice was served, Samantha's tragic death left a permanent void in her family's hearts. Her parents were often brought to tears, haunted by the hundreds of wounds inflicted on their daughter, feeling as though their hearts were being torn apart. At Samantha's funeral, hundreds, even thousands of students voluntarily attended. They held candles to express their sorrow and remembrance, with the candlelight bringing a sense of warmth to the cold winter night. Samantha's devastated father broke down while delivering the eulogy, saying, "I will forever love, remember, and worry about you." Her boyfriend Greg, heartbroken, added, "She was the love of my life. I dreamed countless times about marrying her and starting a family together, but now she has been taken away from me forever." On May 11, 2019, 2 months after Samantha's murder, the University of South Carolina held its graduation ceremony. Every graduating student attended, including Samantha, in a symbolic yet powerful way. In the front row, a chair was left empty, draped with a graduation gown, representing her. She was posthumously awarded her bachelor's degree. During the ceremony, the university president addressed the crowd, asking the graduating class, "What is our name?" In unison, the entire audience responded, "Samantha Josephson." This heartfelt tribute honored the hardworking, optimistic, and joyful spirit she was known for. After some time to grieve and reflect, Samantha's parents came to a painful realization. Her death was not only caused by Roland's brutality, but also by a crucial safety failure in the rideshare process. If Samantha had not mistakenly entered the wrong vehicle, the tragedy could have been avoided. This realization inspired them to launch a public safety campaign and establish the What's My Name Foundation. The foundation aims to educate the public on rideshare safety, fund charitable organizations, and provide college scholarships to graduating high school seniors. Samantha's parents also worked closely with lawmakers to promote legislation that would improve safety for rideshare passengers. Thanks to their efforts, in June 2019, South Carolina passed a new rideshare safety law in her honor, known as Sami's Law. This law requires rideshare vehicles to display clear identification markers on both the front and rear of the vehicle. Additionally, the driver's name, photo, and license plate must be visible on both rear passenger windows for easy verification by passengers. The law also imposes strict penalties for impersonating a rideshare driver, including fines up to $500 and a maximum jail sentence of 30 days. For those who use rideshare platforms to commit crimes, the penalties are even harsher, with fines reaching $1,000 and a maximum prison sentence of 2 years. Of course, passengers must also take precautions when getting into a rideshare vehicle. It's highly recommended to ask the driver, "What's my name?" because only the legitimate rideshare driver would have the passenger's correct information. The What's My Name Foundation, inspired by Samantha's nickname Sami, encourages this as a final safety check before getting into any rideshare vehicle. Sami's law was eventually recognized in the state of New Jersey and further refined in July 2020. Despite facing challenges and delays, it was officially signed into federal law by President Biden in 2023. The story of Samantha closes here, but the legacy of Sami's law remains, a powerful and heartbreaking reminder of the importance of safety in the modern era of rideshare technology. Laws have changed, yet the pain lingers, echoing in the hearts of Samantha's parents, friends, and loved ones. A young woman with limitless potential, on the brink of achieving her dreams, was cruelly taken away far too soon. This tragedy is not just a personal loss, but a wake-up call for the entire community about the hidden dangers we often overlook. Samantha Josephson. Her name will forever be remembered, not just as a victim, but as a lasting lesson for all of us. That concludes today's video. See you in the next one. Goodbye.